In a surprising twist of events, the Australian Energy Market Operator, AEMO, made an unprecedented market intervention. To the shock of everyone, the electricity market was suspended, including trading across the entire East Coast electricity power network. The electricity market was said to have neared complete meltdown as power generators across the grid withdrew their support. So what exactly happened, and what does this mean for the future? Let's dive into it. First up, what do you mean by meltdown? Around the 15th of June, faced with the daunting prospect of insufficient supply to meet demand, Australia's spot power market was suspended following orders from AEMO. This means that while the volts kept flowing to the customers, the market itself was broken. It was a crisis that Bloomberg Opinion's David Fickling described as an extraordinary failure. It seems like Fickling certainly has a strong opinion on the matter, as power generators decided to withdraw their supply, claiming that the sky-high cost of coal and gas has made it impossible for them to operate profitably. The AEMO scrambled to calm down an extremely volatile situation. After calling an emergency press conference on Wednesday night, i.e. the 15th of June, the NSW Treasurer and Energy Minister Matt Keane issued a rare plea for the state's residents. He asked residents to try and minimize non-critical electricity usage between 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. This is a result of the number of our coal-fired power stations not working when we need them to, he said. When asked, he could only blame the state's aging infrastructure for the rapidly increasing energy crisis. He also explained how this event showed the pressing need for a more modern energy system. But for now, all they can do is make sure coal-fired power stations are working. So what's this we're hearing of an investigation? After the meltdown, the National Competition Watchdog has announced they'll be conducting an in-depth forensic investigation into the spiraling energy prices, included, but not limited to, an urgent assessment of power companies that are accused of gaming the market. Here's where you may be wondering, what exactly is gaming the market? Some power companies have been accused of gaming the market by implying that the behavior of these companies is what's causing the prices to soar, specifically by withdrawing electricity supply during alleged meltdown crises that sent blackout warnings and shockwaves throughout the residents, many of whom called it downright apocalyptic. Even Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was quoted as saying, "There was a bit of gaming going on in the system," leaving people wondering if that was enough to launch a full-fledged investigation into the matter. However, these claims were rejected by the Australian Energy Council. The council represents multiple large power companies, and it argued that there was no gaming going on, but instead, the price cap imposed on the cost of wholesale power was what was making it impossible for power companies to operate. This led to the meltdown. So what's the ACCC's take on all this? The competition watchdog, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, is apparently taking this very seriously. Chair Gina Cass-Gottlieb was quoted as saying that she had a real breadth of powers for the investigation into power companies' behavior. The investigation will be conducted with the help of the Australian energy regulator, known as the AER. While talking to the press, Cass-Gottlieb revealed that they were brought into this crisis as a part of the government and regulatory response. They will be taking note of all the decision-making that can be made, as well as any problematic behavior that might be found. In the event of problematic conduct, Cass-Gottlieb assured residents that the appropriate actions will be taken against the perpetrators. Wow, this is all some real serious stuff. So what's going to happen next? It's all looking rather confusing at the moment. The investigation has been launched, but what about the troubled grid? With regard to that, Energy Minister Chris Brown has taken charge and is leading talks on introducing a capacity mechanism to allegedly fix up the troubled grid. It's a rather straightforward policy, so bear with us and we'll try to take you through it. The policy's main aim is to reward assets such as big batteries and pumped hydro that can be kept on standby in case of emergencies. Energy Minister Chris Bowen is leading talks on introducing so-called capacity mechanisms to shore up the troubled grid. The policy aims to reward assets such as big batteries and pumped hydro that can be on standby and available to support renewables through all weather conditions. But the news is not all helpful. The industry is warning of a further surge in power bills. The increases could potentially cripple businesses if state and territory governments break up the national electricity market by adopting differing tools rather than a cohesive method for managing the transition from fossil fuels into renewable energy. Subsequently, Bowen also announced that the inclusion of the existing gas or coal-fired generators in the jurisdiction scheme would be left up to state governments to decide. So what does this crisis mean for global energy? It might seem like just a hiccup, but this has massive implications on a global scale. Analysts are of the opinion that the down-under's move from coal-fired power to renewable power matters not just to them, but it matters everywhere, and will continue to be an important thing to consider for the next several decades. The bottom line is this: power plants age only in one direction. That's why the time has come for governments everywhere to start planning for more abnormal weather on higher demand, along with more unscheduled maintenance of generation equipment. That's not all. Some analysts also think that operators need to start planning for variable capacity. This sounds like a scary word, but basically just means that operators need to ensure that not only is the power capacity available, but that it can also also be used. And last but not least, a very important lesson for the global energy market is that nations should start prioritizing large reserves of fuels. Places like the US and Europe already have a significant number of reserves, but a majority of the countries work on a thinner margin, with most not having energy reserves at all. Importing countries need to start thinking about building reserves to make sure they don't suffer a crisis like this and build a more resilient energy system that can stand against both climate and geopolitical crises. But we don't want to end on a sour note, so we'll leave you with the assurance that there is still time, and hopefully the Down Under's market failures lead to better planning everywhere else. Next, in other news, Albanese stands with NATO. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese joins the chorus of outraged voices as international condemnation over the Kremlin's missile strikes on a busy shopping center reached a fever pitch. The missiles were reported to have blown apart a packed shopping center in Ukraine, and 18 people are said to have died. As the world watches and mourns, Albanese said that Russia's atrocities are uniting the democratic world against Putin's authoritarian regime. He also echoed the regret and dismay of world leaders everywhere as they called the attack abominable and vowed that Putin will be held accountable for his war crimes and brought to justice. This took place as NATO forces increased the number of troops on high alert to more than 300,000. And even though Australia itself is not a member of NATO, the Prime Minister has clarified that he thinks a strong NATO is absolutely critical. This is why Australia has remained partners with NATO since the early 2000s. And now, Australia locks down its bees. Yes, you heard that right. After humans during the pandemic, the bees down under are officially under lock. The reason for this sudden action is gonna leave you shocked. The country, long known for being home to all kinds of strange and dangerous insects, has now detected the presence of a hive-killing mite. This is why the country is racing to protect its honeybees after discovering a mite that has destroyed hives all around the world. The discovery left experts increasingly worried, as fear abounds for the safety of the bees. This may seem trivial to those not in the know, but bees, being pollinators, are crucial to Australia's $37 billion agricultural industry. The mite, called Verona, is known to cause infestations leading to diseasing, weakening, and the death of hives, something that's an incredibly serious concern for producers of Australian honey products, which often reap hefty rewards in overseas markets, including Asia. That's not all though. Along with honeybees, producers growing reliant on commercial honeybees for crop pollination are worried as well. This parasite could lead to serious implications for the local agricultural industry. The level of concern caused by this insect is mighty, with the New South Wales Agricultural Minister Dougal Saunders saying that if the mite settles in the state, there was severe consequences. He assured everyone that every action and precaution is being taken to contain the insect and protect pollination, as well as the local bee industry. Well, here's to hoping Australia can avoid an infestation. That's all for today, folks. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think there's a potential gaming taking place in the energy market? As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us next time for more videos like this.